Hey guys, I know this is kind of again a different environment, but I kind of just wanted to have a little sit down chat, therapy session almost, if you will, where I just like talk to you guys about whatever I'm thinking about. And yeah, we just chat. So something that I have been thinking about a lot lately is the fact that I kind of feel like nothing. I'm trying to phrase this without sounding like the edgiest person in the whole world, but the fact that I kind of feel like nothing feels sacred anymore. Let me expand on what exactly I mean by that. But I sort of feel like, say, with like a show that I'm interested in, the show like gets canceled or it gets horribly rebooted. Or say there's a brand that I really like and suddenly they're like whatever, problematic, unethical, can't buy from them anymore. Or an artist that I like ends up being a horrible person. Or even like a subculture that I'm interested in, or an aesthetic or whatever. Everyone's really into it and then suddenly becomes super unpopular and like cringe if you're into that thing. I don't know if this is kind of like a unpopular feeling, but I sort of feel like I can't like anything current, because if I do like it, then something's gonna happen and say it's just unpopular or it's problematic or whatever, and I can't really like that thing anymore. So because I'm scared of that like happening to whatever media, subculture, show, whatever that I like, then I just like don't want to like enjoy things that much anymore. And I know this kind of sounds, I feel like it sounds privileged or very nihilist, which I don't want to sound that way at all. But I feel like it's hard to enjoy things these days, quote unquote, just because of how, well, also because of how quickly trends like pass by. That like if there's this cool game that comes out or whatever, everyone's really into it for a few weeks, a few months if you're lucky, and then suddenly like you can't really like that thing anymore, because it's so like 3 months ago or whatever. And obviously like I feel like people are probably gonna say like you can still like that thing, just because it's not popular anymore, you can still like that thing. It's like, yeah, obviously you can, but I feel like it's just kind of quote unquote like ruined after that. So I've been having a hard time with like figuring out how to enjoy like current things without feeling like they're ruined after a little bit. I guess another way to put it is it's kind of hard to like attach yourself to something, or like to an identity or a fandom or whatever, these days, when like after a little bit it's seen as uncool. Or even not just that, say the creator ruins it, or something, or it's problematic, or like it's rebooted or whatever. It just sort of feels like nothing is like really fun anymore. Like you can't like get into something and know that it's gonna be there for you to still be really into in like a year or a few years or whatever. Like I feel like you could back in like the early internet days, or even just like before that, like in general. Like say if there was a book series, like you could get into that book series knowing that like it was still gonna be there after a good few years and you could still like enjoy it. I feel like this is gonna be a completely random example to use. I was never that into it, but say the Dream SMP, a lot of people got into that, made fan art, cosplays, merch, even whatever. It was this big fandom, but it's like it was gone after like a year. I don't know the exact time. It was gone like pretty soon, and now like that's just not a thing people can be into anymore. Like, I know it's not ongoing anymore, but there are plenty of, like, fandoms, like, back in the old days or whatever, that, like, the game or series or whatever that they're attached to, not ongoing even anymore, but people were still, like, way into it. You know, people were making fan art and stuff, and, you know, fan fiction, what have you, for it. But, like, what a trend that I've noticed with a lot of, like, modern fandoms is that once everyone kind of, like, gets over it, you can't really, like, participate in that thing anymore. You can't be a part of that fandom anymore, because, like, it's either really dead, or if you, like, you say you're into it, everyone's gonna shame you, you know? Like, there's just no, like, fun in it anymore. And sure, you can, like, get into, like, new fandoms that pop up, like, The Amazing Digital Circus, or I don't remember the name of it right now, but there's another similar fandom. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. Which obviously, like, The Amazing Digital Circus, it's still ongoing, it's still popular. But I feel like once a fandom reaches its height, like, after that point, it just kind of dies out, and you can't really get into something and enjoy it anymore, because it's just gonna be gone in a few weeks, and it's not gonna be, like, any fun anymore. So I guess that's kind of something I've been struggling with lately, is, like, how do you enjoy things these days when, like, there's a very real possibility that it's just gonna be ruined or go away somehow, and everything you, like, bought for that thing or made for that thing is just gonna be, like, who cares, you know? So I've been having a hard time, like, enjoying things because of that. Like, you know, I feel like if you look at a lot of older aesthetics, like fashion aesthetics, say, scene culture, or, like, the Tumblr aesthetic, I forgot what it's called now, like twee and, like, pastel, whatever. You look at those old, like, internet subcultures, even back in the, like, early to mid, like, 2010s, I feel like they just lasted a lot longer. Like, I feel like the scene subculture lasted from, like, late 2000s to, like, mid 2010s, like, a good few years, to where even, like, physical stores would produce, like, a lot of clothing for that subculture, and you could, like, you could purchase, like, closets of things, and, like, make your room that aesthetic and subculture and whatever, and, like, really participate in it, knowing that, like, it wasn't going away anytime soon, even if obviously nobody dresses like pastel Tumblr goth twee core these days, really, except for a few people. But, like, it still lasted, like, a whole, like, childhood's worth of time. And now, like, when I see like, cores and aesthetics popping up, like, online, that say I really like, I'm just not going to go out and, like, buy clothes for it, or, like, participate in it in real life anymore, because I know that it's like, yeah, I like this, like, aesthetic now, but in a week or two, everyone's probably gonna be done with it, and, like, what am I gonna do with all this stuff I got? Just, like, donate it, get rid of it? You know, it's like, I don't even want to participate in it anymore, when I know it's just gonna be, like, completely over with. So I guess this leads on to my second point of how I've kind of been, quote unquote, dealing with this. I have found myself enjoying a lot of, not really vintage, but, you know, nostalgic things lately, because it's like, if, like, something is a past aesthetic or, like, trend, there's still a lot of, like, media about it, and, like, products and clothes and whatever of this thing, because it used to be really popular, but, like, you know that it's not gonna suddenly be ruined or suddenly, quote unquote, taken away, because, like, it's just not even, like, it's a thing of the past. So you don't have to worry about, like, TikTok or whoever suddenly deciding that it's over with, you know. And I do still find that there are usually groups of people still like involved in these aesthetic subcultures, or you know, like subcultures, whatever you want to call it. Even though they're like years old, there's still like a select group of people who are still participating in it and still involved in it. So I find that it makes it a lot easier to be involved in like a community and a subculture when like it's a small community of people who have probably been in it for years and are not just gonna suddenly up and leave because it's not trendy anymore. And it feels like to me how like old aesthetics and subcultures that people still participate in today, like that feels to me like how trends and media used to feel, because it's like a community participating in this thing that they genuinely love, that's not like a trend, you know. And that's not to say that trends like didn't exist like pre 2020. Obviously there was lots of different trends that came and went, but it felt like people genuinely like being passionate about like this vibe or whatever that they liked, or this media or whatever that they liked. It didn't feel like this 1 week's worth of like trend that everyone just gets onto because it's the thing right now, and then they like leave a week later. Yeah, obviously this is a very like first world problem, but I just like, I don't even know how people like attach themselves to like an identity like in our current, I don't want to say political climate, like social climate, whatever you want to call it. Even with like I'll use this example, like maximalism. This has very recently started to be like a big thing. Obviously maximalism is not really a new thing. Like the idea of maximalism, very old, but maximalism being like a genuinely popular thing has been very recent, because I know minimalism was the thing, like the new trend for, I want to say the past 10 years might be a bit pushing it, but like minimalism was the thing. It was the popular kids were like minimalists, you know. But I have seen a very large uptick recently in people being like, oh, you know, I'm a maximalist person, and that's like their identity. And I just feel like not pre-internet, but pre-like Web 2.0, there wasn't this like big like, oh, minimalism is the thing now. Like there was, but it was like, it felt like all of these subcultures existed like in their own little space. I don't know if this is making any sense, but in their own little space, and like they coexisted together, and if one like died out, it wasn't something you had to like really worry about. It didn't really have like a quote unquote dying out like things do these days, because like let's say with minimalism, back to that example, I feel like minimalism got super popular, and there was all of these like clothes and like furniture, houses, like internet aesthetics, all of this stuff was being produced like for minimalism, and now it's like slowly stopping even being a popular thing. Everyone's like, oh my god, you know, minimalism is so bland, it's so boring. So it's like all of this stuff was produced, and like there's this whole community for minimalists, and now it's just like gone. It's not, obviously there are still minimalists out there. I'm not trying to act like nobody's a minimalist anymore. Obviously people still participate in it, but it's like I think there's a sense of people being like, you can't be like caught having a minimalist aesthetic in 2025. You have to be like maximalist, eccentric, core, whatever. And I'm like, how am I supposed to like attach myself to a community and an aesthetic and a core and whatever, and like really feel like it's my thing when everyone thinks it's their thing at the time, and then it goes away. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much this made sense or how relatable this is, but I just kind of felt like talking about it. I just wanted to rant about it for a minute. I guess I don't want to end this video on that note. My solution to this quote unquote problem, what's been working for me is trying to distance myself from like internet subcultures and internet like aesthetics, and like not like interacting with it. Like I'll still interact with like trends and whatever, but I won't like participate in them really anymore. Instead, what I have been doing, and this is gonna sound like the most obvious thing in the whole wide world, but I've kind of been trying to make my aesthetic, my vibe, whatever. I'm trying to just like build it and discover it myself instead of relying on like whatever Pinterest mood board I have. And because it's like, it's my thing, and I know that it's not just going to become unpopular in like a week's time, and like nobody's gonna produce stuff for it anymore, because it's like just a thing that I made that I participate in. And like I feel like this just sounds so obvious, because it's like, yes, this is what people did before like the internet was really a thing or what have you. I mean, obviously there's like magazines and stuff, but you know what I mean. So I feel like it sounds obvious, but it's like I feel like, I don't want to sound condescending, but I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten that that's like an option. You know what I mean? That like you can just have your own like identity and vibe, like separate from whatever is like popular at the time. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like popular subcultures. Like scene these days or emo these days isn't like necessarily a huge trend, but it's still like a subculture aesthetic that people rely on to build their identity. And I mean, I'm just trying to like at this point just like not even participate in that. I mean, you can also bring this back to like capitalism in general, and like, you know, internet culture in general, with how like unsustainable things have become, like short form content right now. But everything is like unsustainable and bad for the environment, because you get all of these trends popping up, these aesthetics, like the Office siren one. I don't know if you guys remember that, or whatever, where people will like start dressing like a certain aesthetic. They'll go out and they'll buy all these new wardrobes and whatever, and like clothes and stuff, and then it's over in like a few weeks, and people just get rid of that wardrobe completely, and like, you know, all the stuff that they bought for it, which is obviously extremely unsustainable, very bad for the environment. So yeah, I guess that's I rant over. If you have this problem, feel free to share in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know if you want to see more of this style of sit down and talk video. And I'll see you in the next one.